They walked away, left you behind. Choose someone else. Decided you weren't worth their time anymore, and you're devastated, questioning everything, wondering what's wrong with you, replaying every moment, trying to understand why. Stop. This is the best thing that could have happened to you, not because pain is good, because what you do with their absence determines whether you become stronger or stay broken. The Stoics understood, when someone leaves, they don't take your power. They reveal an opportunity to claim power you didn't know you had. Today, I'm showing you exactly how to use their departure to become completely untouchable. The shift. First, change how you see what happened. They didn't reject you. They revealed incompatibility. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact." Their departure is their opinion that you don't fit their life. That's not a fact about your value. That's information about compatibility. Oil and water aren't compatible. That doesn't make oil defective or water superior. They're just different substance. You and them, same thing. Different substances that don't mix. When you internalize their leaving as rejection of your worth, you give them power over your identity. When you recognize it as a revelation of incompatibility, you reclaim that power. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." They left. That happened. Your reaction, devastation, or transformation determines your next chapter. Here's how you transform their departure into your untouchability. 3 phases. Each builds on the previous. Phase 1. Solitude as forge. The first phase, use solitude to forge yourself into something harder. They left. You have space now, time. Energy that went to them is returned to you. Most people waste this. They fill the void immediately with distraction, rebound relationships, endless social activity, anything to avoid feeling the absence. This is exactly wrong. Seneca wrote, "Without solitude, no serious work is possible." The serious work isn't moving on. It's becoming someone who doesn't need anyone to complete them. Use the solitude deliberately. Physical forge. Your body is the first thing you control completely. They left? Good. Get in the best shape of your life. Not for them. For you. Discipline in the gym creates discipline everywhere else. Mental forge. Read. Learn. Develop skills. Every hour you spent thinking about them is now invested in becoming more capable. That's compound interest on their departure. Financial forge. Build resources. Save. Invest. Create additional income. Financial independence is freedom. Their absence is an opportunity to build it. Last year, someone I'd built my life around left. Completely, suddenly, no explanation that made sense. Old me would have spiraled into why, obsessed over getting them back and tried to fill the void immediately. The new me recognized, I have time now. What do I build with it? 6 months of that time, gym 5 days a week. Read 30 books, learned a high-value skill, increased income by 40%. Built friendships I'd neglected, not because I was trying to make them regret leaving, because I was using the forge they'd unknowingly given me. The solitude hurt. That's the heat of the forge. The hurt doesn't weaken you, it hardens you if you use it right. Marcus Aurelius. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Their absence stood in your way. Now make it your way forward. Phase 2. Standards as filter. The second phase. Raise your standards so high that most people disqualify themselves. They left because you didn't meet their standards. Fine. Now create standards so high they wouldn't meet yours. This isn't bitterness, it's clarity. Epictetus taught, keep company with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Their absence is an opportunity to get clear. What kind of person actually deserves proximity to you? Not just anyone who shows interest, not just anyone who's attractive or convenient, someone who meets actual standards. Write them down. Character standards, integrity, loyalty, honesty. Not just when it's easy, when it's costly. Effort standards. They pursue you as much as you pursue them. Energy is reciprocal. Investment is mutual. Growth standards. They're building something. They have vision. They're not stagnant. Respect standards. They treat you with consistent respect. not just when they always want something. 2 months ago, someone showed interest. Old me would have jumped at it, desperate to fill the void. The new me ran them through standards. Character, they gossiped about others constantly. Failed immediately. Had I not had clear standards, I'd have wasted months discovering they'd treat me exactly how they treated the people they gossiped about. Standards aren't about being difficult, they're about being selective, and selectivity is power. Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Your standards ensure everyone you allow proximity to makes you better. Everyone else disqualifies themselves before wasting your time." Phase 3. Outcome independence. The third phase. Become so complete within yourself that you want companionship but don't need it. This is where untouchability is actually built. They left. That hurt because you needed them. For happiness, for validation, for identity, for a purpose. That need made you vulnerable. It gave them power over your internal state. Marcus Aurelius. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. True untouchability is being happy alone and welcoming companionship as enhancement, not a requirement. Here's how you build it. Happiness audit. Write what makes you happy. If everything on that list requires another person, you're not independent. Build happiness sources that are yours alone. Validation. Audit. Where do you seek validation? If it's primarily external, you're vulnerable. Build an internal validation system. Purpose audit. What's your purpose? If it was tied to them, you lost yourself when you lost them. Build purpose independent of any person. 3 months after my person left, I did these audits. Results were humbling. Happiness. 80% of what I enjoyed involved them. I'd abandoned hobbies, friends, and solo activities. Validation. I determined my worth based on their opinion of me. When they left, my worth collapsed. Purpose. My purpose had become making them happy. When they left, I had no purpose. No wonder I was devastated. I'd built my entire internal world around an external person. When they left, the world collapsed. I rebuilt. Result? Someone could enter my life tomorrow and I'd welcome them, but I don't need them. My happiness, validation, and purpose are internally generated. That's untouchability, the transformation. Here's what these 3 phases create. Phase 1, solitude as forge. You used their absence to become physically, mentally, and financially stronger. Phase 2, standards as filter. You established criteria that disqualify everyone except high-quality people. Phase 3, outcome independence. You build happiness, validation, and purpose internally. Together, they create someone who is stronger than before they left, is selective about who gets access, is complete without needing anyone that's untouchable, not invincible, not unfeeling, just unbreakable by others' presence or absence. They left? Good. They gave you the opportunity to build this. Most people never get forced into this transformation. They stay dependent, vulnerable, and breakable. You were forced. Now you're forged. The ancient Stoics knew. Nothing external can touch you unless you've given it power too. Epictetus survived slavery. Marcus Aurelius survived constant betrayal. Seneca survived exile. They became untouchable not by avoiding pain, but by building internal worlds no external event could destroy. Someone left you. That's an external event. It has exactly as much power as you give it. Give it power to destroy you, you stay broken. Give it power to forge you, you become untouchable. Use the solitude to build. Raise the standards to filter. Become complete internally. Then watch what happens. You don't chase anymore. You don't beg. You don't break when someone leaves, because you were never dependent on them staying. That's freedom. That's power. That's untouchable. They left you? Good. Now show them what they actually lost. Subscribe to Stoic Forge. Share with someone rebuilding. Comment which phase you're in. Remember, their departure is your opportunity. Use it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.